Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I've obviously not seen you all for a week. We didn't have last Monday's stream, so yeah, welcome back after a week off. As you can see, I'm making the most of celebrating the result last night from the game. I've even put my Ram shirt on as well, just to kind of help celebrate. So yes, I'm making the most of it. Who knows what will happen in 2 weeks' time? So I'm making the most of it before we get to that game. So how is everybody? What are you up to? What are you doing tonight? What have you been doing over the weekend? Who's been getting some games in? Who's been lucky enough to be playing some stuff? I was away this weekend with my family. It was my mother and father-in-law's 50th wedding anniversary, so the whole family, kind of like my wife's family, all went away for the weekend together, so that was quite nice. Obviously no gaming and stuff like that, but it was nice to have a bit of a break, and sort of the weather wasn't fantastic, but that wasn't what it was about. Some nice food and some nice company. So yes, that's what my weekend consisted of. I'm a bit behind with painting and stuff. I've not painted in a few weeks. I've not done a great deal of painting this year, to be fair, so I need to catch up as well. And I'm assuming that some of you will obviously be painting your stuff up for the BlackJack Legacy Painting Challenge for January. The deadline for that is Sunday coming up. So Sunday the 7th, is it? I think it might be. Yeah, so then we'll be showing them all off next Monday. But we'll start by saying hello to the folks in the chat tonight. Mark Wright in nice and early. Good evening to you, my friend. Ice Moon as well, saying been way too long since I caught a live one of these. Good evening, Ice Moon. Mark saying he played his first Warcry game yesterday and was well impressed. I saw that, mate, I think it was on a Facebook group. I'm glad you enjoyed it, mate. It's a game that I always enjoy playing. I don't play it as often as I'd like to, but yeah, I do enjoy playing the game. Ian saying he got a bit scared. I forgot to take my laptop away with me at the weekend, and I wanted to get set up for this live stream while I was away so that I could come back a bit later today and not have to worry about kind of like dashing back this morning and getting it done. So I tried to do it all on the iPad, and it seemed to work, except when I come to set the stream away tonight, it wasn't actually like there as anything I could like connect to with cameras and stuff, so I had to start a new stream and cancel the old one. So I think that's why it might have disappeared for you. Ortega, hello in the rerun, buddy. Hope you're well. Marcus, good afternoon to you. Peter Koeman, good evening. Cardos, hello to you as well, buddy. Dominic, good evening. VG says he's out running and he'll be in when he gets home and situated for painting. What are you painting, VG, if you're back? I think I saw you comment there at the bottom of the screen there. What are you painting, mate? What you painting tonight, buddy? Christian Reeves, good evening to you, mate. Nathan Taylor says good evening as well. Marcus is saying he's finished cleaning the dishes, so I'll be listening for the moment. Colin Wakelin, good evening to you as well. Robert Zunk in nice and early. Nice to see you, Rob. Yoakum said he's a last effort with this month's painting challenge tonight, and then it's time to send some pictures. I've had quite a few through already, actually, to be fair, which is always good. So yeah, I've had plenty through already, and there's still a week to go. So you've still got time. If you've not started and you think you can paint something in a week, please still take part. James on, greetings to you as well. He says you're still riding high from the game. I actually stopped up and watched it last night, so I'm feeling pretty tired today. I kind of like I see I was away with the family. The Wi-Fi signal was pretty decent, so everybody's in bed, and I'm kind of like sort of like lying there in bed with my phone connected to my NFL Game Pass, watching the game last night with my headphones in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit tired today. I was still up at like 8 o'clock or something like that this morning because we had to be out of our apartment thing for 10, so I was still up early this morning to get packed and stuff, and so yeah, I'm on the coffee at the minute just to help me get through tonight's stream. But yeah, it was definitely worth staying up. I'm glad we didn't lose, and I stayed up for it, put it that way. Ed's in as well. Good evening, Ed. Hello, Blizzards. John Estelle saying he's got more halflings for him tonight and to drop a single malt. Sounds like the perfect night, mate. I should be there with you. Never mind doing this. Stuart Murray, good evening to you. Jacob saying, how about them Rams? Yes, I'm enjoying the feeling, mate, of getting to a Super Bowl. What happens in a couple of weeks' time, who knows? But I'm enjoying the ride at the minute. Camo, good morning to you. Kenneth Paulson, good evening. Dave Mackay, good evening to you as well. Jez Hunt, hello, fella. Andy Smith says, how are you doing? I have the speckled hen variant of COVID. I'm not even going to ask what that is, mate. Where are we here? Vijay saying, you just get back from space. What do you mean, mate? I'm repping my colours. Oh mate, I'm doing the full on colours tonight. Somberland says good evening as well. Dan Kennedy says he's looking forward to catching one live, but just got back from a busy 12-hour shift in A&E, and I'm knackered, so might not make it to the end. To be honest, mate, I might not make it to the end. So there's two of us. We'll see how this one goes. Ed saying he had a quiet weekend. He's isolating because of his wife and daughter. I've got to isolate for a few days this week. I've got to go for a COVID test on Wednesday, and then I'm having like a bit of a procedure at hospital on Saturday morning. So I've got to go for the COVID test, assume that I'm negative, but then as soon as I've had it, I have to isolate until my hospital appointment on Saturday morning. So yeah, I've got a few days of isolation this week. I might get some painting done. Who knows? Jez is certainly Stargrave crew, nice one. Busey's in as well. It says looks cold in there with all the NFL padding and gear on. Do you know what it is, mate? I already had my Rams hoodie on. To be fair, I've had this on today, my Rams hoodie, and I thought, you know what it is, I'm going to put my t-shirt on today, so I just threw it over the top, mate. But yeah, so I've got a t-shirt on under here, and then I've got my hoodie on, and then I've got my jersey, my Matthew Stafford jersey there. Jess is saying, hope everything is okay, Tom. Yeah. Austin Thornhill, good evening, Austin, or good afternoon, Austin. He says, hello, folks from Los Angeles. Go Rams. Yes, go Rams, mate. Wayne Hayward, good evening to you. Ed says he managed to catch a whole bunch of kill team games at LVO on the streams. Some incredible play. Yeah, there was some nice looking stuff, mate. I did see some pictures from the weekend. Starkey's Man Cave says, hello all, it's been a good time. Nice to see you, mate. Blizzard saying he's not painted a thing in like a month. Yeah, I started relatively well at the start of the year, but then I've just kind of like, I've had a bit of a weird kind of like creative block. Sometimes I get this, and it's probably happened about 3 times in the last 5 years, where I get to a point where I just like, I have a bit of a mental creative block, and it's really hard to kind of get the momentum going. And then what'll happen is something will come along and it'll spark the creativity again, and I'm away and running, and I'll be fine for like another sort of like 9 months, a year or something like that. But I'm going through one of those moments at the minute. But I think the difference this time around is the fact that because it's happened before, I'm trying not to stress too much about it. It's the reason I didn't have the live stream last week. There was nothing wrong. There wasn't really any new news. I was feeling a bit flat from terms of I couldn't really think of anything to talk about and be entertaining, so I just thought, rather than just sitting here and kind of just rambling about nothing kind of thing like I normally do, I'm better off just canning it for a week and kind of coming back stronger. So yeah, that's the plan anyway. David Hargis, good afternoon or good evening to you, sir. Barry saying there was a stat for that. For the last 18 years, all Super Bowls had at least one of the following: Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger, or the 49ers. Yeah, and I think actually the last 2 years are the only 2 years where the hosts, like the host stadium, have been in the finals as well. It's only ever happened twice, I think, as well. Vijay said he's working on his Orc Armada ships still. RPD, good evening. Ariel Sanchez said he's managed to grab a Dominion box for $130. I think there's been quite a few of those kicking about on the cheap, mate. So yeah, nicely done. Camo says he's been painting some Necromunda Orlocks and building some Goliaths. And RPD says he's finally managed to get some Fallout painted. Nice, mate. Ian says he's painted one of his pledge goals, painted for the challenge, painted part of another pledge goal, and now in the middle of painting another pledge goal. Go Demons. Well, sounds like you got plenty on the painting table, mate. And Peter Kuman is assembling his bold action Russians. Awesome, mate. So tonight's news, tonight's kind of topics, and tonight's chat, we're going to be talking about it was the LVO this weekend, which for those that are not in the know was the Las Vegas Open. It is one of the biggest independent sort of miniature gaming events. It's up there with Adepticon in terms of size. I think they have a lot less kind of like sort of vendors. It's less of a shopping thing, but they have a lot, and it's very heavily sort of 40k and Warhammer games. But there's a hell of a lot of people go there. It's something I'd like to attend at some point in the future. One, because I love Las Vegas, and two, just for the spectacle of seeing the thing, really. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Games Workshop revealed quite a few things over the weekend. So as always, I kind of talk about the things that interest me. So we'll touch on some of the other stuff as well, but I'll focus on the bits that kind of interest me. The main one being the Necromunda, is it called Ash Wastes, which I think we don't know a lot about it yet, but it's nice to kind of like sort of wish list on this kind of stuff, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. And the other one I want to chat about as well in our new stuff is a game called The Dark Quarter. You might not know much about it. It's more board game focused. There are miniatures in it. But it's a game that kind of popped up on my radar. I think it's coming to Kickstarter in the next sort of couple of months. But we'll chat about that soon, and I'll tell you why we're chatting about that as well. But if you've got anything else you want to raise, anything else you want to chat about, please do chuck it in the chat. Pop it in at BlackJack Legacy, all one word, and it'll kind of highlight it for me, and I'll get to see it and see what you want to do. And we'll also have a little chat about, later on as well, about some stuff that you'd like to see on the channel. If I'm going through a bit of a mental kind of creative dry period, maybe you can kind of get me out of it. Maybe you can kind of spark some ideas and some things that you'd like to see. And if that kind of gels with the type of stuff that I like to do, maybe we'll be off and back at the races quicker than that. So, where else are we up to here? Barry's saying that Dave is saying he's painting halflings, loads of halflings. The bits that I got a mispack from my halfling mega army that I bought last year, the bits that I was kind of missing arrived last week, so at least I can get back on with my halflings again. Now when I got the I forget what it's called, but the big kind of sort of pig looking type thing with the little halflings on the riding on the top of it, when I come to build it, like there was some parts that had been mispacked, and there was like two of the same part and one part missing, and I was like, oh, I was gonna paint that for the painting challenge for January, and I kind of got in a bit of a huff with myself, and like, oh, I'll just put that back in the box and I'll forget about it. And unfortunately, that's what happened. But yeah, the missing parts turned up last week, so that can be back on the table again now. Barry saying the plastic Krieg's now available in a single box. That'll get me back to painting. Yeah, I think we talked about that in the news a couple of weeks ago, mate. James Bray, good evening to you, sir. Hope you're well. Frantic, good evening as well. Derek saying he's got a Dominion for £50. There are 4 Warcry warbands in there. I haven't really looked at it for Warcry stuff, mate, to be fair. But yeah, it's if you can pick it up on the cheap, it's not a bad set at all. Ed saying LVO has the biggest 40k tournament every year. It's basically the equivalent of X-Wing Worlds, but a bit smaller, as it's harder to get space for. Yeah, that's a fair point as well. Obviously, like there's a lot of space kind of constraints when you're playing with what used to be 6x4 tables. They're a little bit smaller now, I understand, for the LVO tournament, but they have a huge kill team tournament there. I mean, this year they had Marvel Crisis Protocol, they had Weird were there as well, with some Malifaux stuff. I don't think there's ever really any Mantic stuff there. I think there was once a really, really small Kings of War event, but it doesn't really seem to have kicked off there. But yeah, there's some other events there as well. I would like to go and kind of play at some point. Ian saying, how to use your hobby skills for other things. I'll have to think about that, mate. How can we use our hobby skills for other things? How can I turn that into an idea? I'll think about that one. Ed saying, for 1,000 Warhammer players, than it is for 1,000 X-Wing players. Yeah, purely based upon kind of 3x3 or 4x4 boards. John Esler, Iron Beast, that's the one, mate, the Iron Beast. You know the bits that kind of the platform on the top where you've got the 3 sides to it, where they like a little bit of a fence with the pans and stuff hanging off. That was the bits that was kind of like screwed up and stuff like that, so I just kind of put it down and put it at the back. But yeah, I obviously got sent a full new one, because that's always what they do. But yeah, it now means I've got to try and do something with the old one as well, so I can have 2. Anna's in as well. Good evening, Anna. Hope you're well. Rob said he's painting Rebel Specialist for Legion. Blizzard says that there's a kook stain that there's a kook, that halfling thing. It looks like somebody stole some letters from that, mate. I'm not sure what it says. RPD says, I can't remember the last 40k item I bought. I'm so into FWW. Is that Flames of War? For I don't even know what Fantasy World War. I don't know what FWW is now. Marcus is saying the only thing from Las Vegas reveals that existed. Interested him was the new Phoenix Lord. Yeah, we'll come to that, mate. Ed saying there 40 players for Kill Team and about 200 for X-Wing. Yeah, nice one. It's ridiculous, mate. RPD says hobby skills for car detailing. I've never really been into kind of car stuff like that. I've kind of like sort of put alloys on stuff, and I used to do more around like interior things, putting like sort of like speaker systems and kind of like amplifiers and stuff in. But I was an electrician back then as well, so yeah. James is saying, what I'm painting tonight, I've prepped Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Red Skull, Captain Marvel, Baron Zemo, and Crossbones. So which one are you going to paint though, mate? If you've prepped them all, are you going to paint them all a little bit at a time? Bliss is saying there are other things than hobby. It says, a fun fact, the kill team was won by a Spanish guy. A bunch went over to show the Yanks how it's done. I think there's normally quite a lot of kind of sort of foreign travel to the LVO. I mean, obviously, America opened up their borders last year in November as well, which made it a bit easier for other nations to get over there this time as well. So yeah, it's good. It's good to see like a nice international flavour and that kind of stuff. Fallout, Wasteland Warfare, of course it is, mate. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Dave saying, stick some goblins in its space, make it look like they've ripped it off. I could do. I think I'll be able to kind of butcher it somehow and make it fit the side, to be fair, but we'll see. Jess said his main living come from gaming stuff, kind of like leatherwork and storytelling. Yeah, I suppose that's the case, mate, isn't it? Christian saying to help support the channel from as little as $2 a month and gain access to the Patreon only Discord group. Thank you very much, Christian, for sharing that link. If I've been doing a bit of maintenance there tonight in the Discord group and kind of kicking a few people out, for want of a better word, those that are no longer Patreon members. So if I have kicked you out by mistake and you're somebody that uses the Patreon group, first of all, I apologise. But yeah, you can easily get back in just by clicking on the link in the Patreon messages. Blizzard says the tablet sometimes drops letters. I love that there's a kook stove. That's what it was, mate. It was like some game show where I was trying to guess the missing words. James says it was a question, mate. What am I painting? In that case, mate, go Red Skull. I painted Red Skull first. I really enjoyed painting him. VJ says, could you give the mini swap a shout out? I'll leave the entry open until the end of the stream. Yes, so in our Patreon Discord group, VJ very kindly organises a paint and swap where there is a kind of a topic for each time we do a paint and swap, and basically you paint something, you get somebody else, you draw somebody else's name out, and you basically send them the model that you've painted, and they send you the one that they've painted, and it's just a nice way to kind of like sort of share the community love a little bit. So yes, if you are in the Patreon and you would like to join in VJ's mini swap, please do come in and check that out in the Discord. If you're not a Patreon and you would like to join up for $2 a month and come and join in some of the stuff that happens like that, please by all means do so. Marcus says hobby skills could be used in architecture or the form of painting and teaching strategy. Christian said he's built for MCP, the Black Order, plus Thorn Valkyrie, and Valkyrie was fiddly. I remember Valkyrie being a little bit fiddly, mate. And he says also missing instructions for multiple parts on the Valkyrie guide. It's not that long since I've built that, and I don't remember having any missing bits, but like any missing instructions. So unless I winged it and just kind of did it as I went, I can't remember. But yeah, there are some that's a bit more fiddly than others. Andy said he's having a hobby clear out. I feel overwhelmed by stuff I won't use. This will get me interested in stuff I will use. It's kind of what I was talking about a few weeks ago, mate, about why do we keep buying even though we've got stuff that we've bought and we're not using. That's exactly what I was talking about, mate. VG says, thanks for that. Not a problem, buddy. RPD says, have you watched the Loki series? I have, mate. Yeah, I've watched them all. So just finished it last week. It's amazing. I wasn't as pleased with the ending. I would have liked it to kind of like wrapped up the series a bit better than that, if I'm perfectly honest. But overall, I did enjoy the series. I think I enjoyed Hawkeye a bit more, if I'm being honest. Lord Maiden says, I accept the compromise. Yes. Jim says MCP instructions are a bit rubbish. Some randomly unnumbered pieces. Yeah, I think it depends in the order they were released. Like later on, the newer versions are kind of like all numbered and stuff like that, and the instructions get a bit better. But some of the earlier ones were like almost like as if they'd kind of like they realised at one point and then started numbering stuff. But obviously, depending upon the order you buy stuff, it is completely different to the order they were released. And Christian says the 3-part head plus knife pouch on the leg were missing. Oh, I don't think I remember that, if I'm honest. I've built that many of them. I must admit it all kind of blurs into one now so much. And then RPD says that's my next series to watch after WandaVision. I would say in order, I think that WandaVision was the one I enjoyed the least. Even though I really enjoyed it, I enjoyed that one the least. Then I think I'd probably say Loki, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, then Hawkeye. I think I enjoyed Hawkeye the most. The last episode was, again, not great, but it's because it's like setting it up for like another season. But I am enjoying them, I'll be honest. Peter says, I'm enjoying the Peacekeeper series. Bit silly, but quite fun. Yeah, we don't really have it over here in the UK yet, I don't think. Or if we do, it's on Sky or something like that. So I've not had a chance to see it yet. But no doubt I'll catch up with it at some point. Anyway, let's make a start. Let me get my screen up here. And remember which buttons I need to press, which is that one. And yeah, so I can't see the chat at the minute. Add BlackJack Legacy if you want to kind of sort of something I want to go back to. But I'm going to go through some of the LVO reveals, as you can see here. LVO Las Vegas Open 2022. And so the first one we're going to look at is there was this avatar of Kane, which is part of the new sort of Eldar or Eldari, whatever they call them now. And whilst I'm not sort of massively into 40k, I must admit there were some models in this that I actually really liked, the kind of stuff that I could imagine just picking up to paint kind of thing, just because they look pretty cool. And I quite like this model, I'll be honest. Not so much with this particular helmet, but it comes with a few different options. And as you can see here, it comes with this other kind of like the one without the helmet. And it definitely looks a bit more... It's got a bit more fantasy feel to that one as well, whilst it is still kind of 40k. Now, I just noticed that's... Oh, it's back on. I was going to say that just blipped off there for a second. So yeah, I must admit, I do quite like this model purely from kind of just something cool to kind of paint. I'm sure if you're into 40k, if you're into Eldari, I still can't get used to saying Eldari. It's still Eldar to me. I'm sure it's something that you might find your use for on the table, but I must admit it is something that I think I'd quite like to just paint. And there's something very kind of like 80s rock about this model as well, which I do quite like as well. So some of the new Eldar stuff is looking pretty cool. We got them jet bikes and things. But this kind of setup, I think here just shows you the kind of the size of that main character that we were just looking at, gives you an idea of the size of it. And I think I can see me picking that up at some point in the future, just to paint for a bit of fun or something like that, maybe for a bit of a painting project or something. But I did actually genuinely like that, and I'm not necessarily massively into 40k stuff generally. We'll quickly go to this next one as well. So if you're more of an AOS player, there was some new Nighthaunt and Daughters of Cain things that were released for the Arena of Shades. Is basically like how they get, there's like 2 army boxes. That's the newest one coming up. There was a bit of a video, which obviously you can go and watch them yourself if you go to the Warhammer community page. But there's some kind of regular stuff in here, things that don't necessarily float my boat. But there was a few models that I actually really liked. This was one of them, and again, this is one of those models I could kind of like see would be quite fun to paint. There's just something like, I mean, why he'd be in the middle of a battle, I'm not really sure. But I must admit, I do quite like the kind of the style of the model. I like the fact the way he's kind of holding on, turning the page there. They've obviously done a great job with the paint job as well. And I quite like that particular model. These ones, I can kind of take or leave them. I think there's some nice ones in there. They're always quite nicely sculpted. They're a bit old school, especially with these kind of sort of dome helmet type things on. They're a bit old school looking. But yeah, they're nicely made and they're nicely painted. And then we've got some of these ones as well, which are the basically like the Nighthaunt, the Marathi Cain's stuff. And again, yeah, nice. If that's your army, I'm sure you'll be quite happy with that one. It says she leads a force of 5 Doomfire Warlocks and 10 Sisters of Slaughter with 5 Canary Heart Renderers, making her army lightning fast and capable of diving headlong into close combat. So yeah, it's quite nice. I guess that's all I'm really saying about it. Not really my style, but yeah, it is nicely done. So that's just some of the things that were revealed. We'll come on to a bit more stuff in a second, but we'll pop across to the chat and see what folks are thinking about them. James is saying he's just finished up a 500-point Black Templar squad over the weekend. An old friend who's new to the hobby is getting Death Guard together, so we're going to get some games in. It's nice when you... That's for me, that's exactly how 40k should be played. It's just kind of sort of smaller forces, you and a mate coming together, just building them over time. If you're into kind of competitive stuff, by all means, they're kind of like diving right in at the more competitive levels. But I just like to hear people kind of like playing out those kind of stories on the tabletop together. Peter says, just sit through the intro tune of Peacekeeper. I was about to turn it off the first time I saw it. Proper silly. I've not. So I honestly don't know anything about it, mate. I mean, obviously I know who Peacekeeper is from the Suicide Squad stuff, but I've not seen any of it yet. Jez says, Book of Boba Fett. I've got kind of mixed feelings about it, mate. It's been a bit slow. I won't even talk about the last episode in case folks haven't seen it or they haven't caught up yet. But it's not. I'm watching it and I'm enjoying it, but I feel like I'm kind of. Put it this way, some of the Marvel stuff and Mandalorian, I was kind of ready every Wednesday to watch the next episode. At the minute, I'm a bit like, I can quite happily wait until Thursday, Friday, Saturday to kind of catch up with it a little bit. Happy New Year, says Camo. Hello to you, mate. He said, RPD says he's biased. This is a huge Loki fan. Yeah, I can imagine so. If you're into the Loki stuff, I can definitely see how we would enjoy it. Peter says, just sit. Oh yeah, we just talked about that. Ed saying, case in point on buying things. I'm currently painting my Geel Stealer cult from Kill Team 18. Are those the ones that come in the original box, mate? Yeah, I still have. I don't think I painted all mine yet, to be fair. Vijay says he enjoyed Wanda and Loki more than Falcon Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, but that's because I'm more super in superhero stuff. See, I think what I like about Hawkeye is the fact that there's a bit more. There's a human story to it, and the people he's kind of fighting against in that are also a bit more human-esque as well. And for me, there's more in it. There's more heart in the story of somebody that doesn't have superpowers. Whether that's kind of I don't want to say too much in case I'm spoiling stories and stuff. I was kind of skirting around whether that's the other characters that is in Hawkeye, which are all kind of sort of more human as well. I guess we just like different things, mate, when it comes to that stuff. Peter says he's liking Boba Fett. Peter says the unhelmeted version makes it look Dark Elder, really. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it doesn't really matter what it's for me. It's just the fact I quite like the model, but so it's just a personal preference, really. But it does look a bit more sort of fantasy-esque, I think. VJ saying Bear Bukamando. Michael Cowan, good evening to you, buddy. Tasty Brain Drinks, yeah, pretty sure I'll always call them Elder. Yeah, I just kind of get my head around some of those ones. It's like Imperial Guard will always be Imperial Guard. Jess says the Nighthorn fella is very Varsin. It's a great design. I'm not really sure what that means, mate. Peter says canary heart renders. Do they flap and twerp? Lee Reynolds, Dark Future, aka New Necromunda. Hello, Lee, by the way. Yeah, we'll get to that, mate. Dave Mackay says, I like the one with the book. Could easily see that being used in D&D. Yeah, I like that one as well, mate. Of course, you've got to have your line troops and all that kind of stuff, but there's just something about the more character-esque ones, the ones that are almost telling a story in their pose. That's kind of the stuff that I like, because I'm not buying them to like play a game with them as such. There's just certain minis that stand out that I think, yeah, I would like to just paint that. I'd like to collect that one kind of thing. Rathammer Games, hello, says my group only plays 1,000 points of 40k, and we play 2 or 3 games in the afternoon. Sounds like fun to me, mate. RPD says there was rumours, talks about GW bringing back Warhammer Fantasy. I think that's been in the works for quite some time, mate. Basically, the old world, as it's being called, is coming back at some point, but it's still a little way off at the moment. Peter said the human superhero tends to be more relatable to some. I just think the stories are grounded in a little bit more reality in terms of, like, if you take Superman, for example, Superman is a character that I've never really had any kind of sort of affinity with. Because he doesn't really, like, other than like sort of not liking kryptonite, like there's nothing he can't really do, and that kind of, for me, almost just makes him like a character that I like. Well, I don't really kind of care what happens to him, kind of thing. Like, I prefer Batman in the fact that he doesn't have, like, his superpower is the fact that he's kind of rich, if you like. I like that kind of stuff more, to be honest. John says I can type again. I've done the eyes. Nice one, mate. Just saying, is it Vaesen or Vaesen is an RPG set in Victorian Scandinavia? Never heard of it, mate. And Ed saying Batman's a greater hero than Superman. Yeah, that's my fault. That's why Batman was always my thing. So right, let's head back to our LVO reveals and take a look at some more stuff. So, Horus Heresy, for those that are more into the Forge World end of the 40k universe. There was is it Cabanda's monstrous new model is the biggest Horus Heresy character ever, so he's obviously going to be quite large. And basically, he's a bloodthirster of terrible renown, and he stands taller than the greatest of mortal heroes and can sweep away entire detachments with his monstrous axe. And again, I must admit, I quite like the model. I think they've done a good job of it. I'm not sure if they've got any pictures just to kind of show the scale of this thing. I'm not sure whether. Let's have a little look in the video here. We'll skip ahead a little bit and see if they've got anything to kind of show it in. No, there's nothing to show it to give it like any kind of sense of scale against anything else. But yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing. Obviously, it's for Horus Heresy. There's a lot of things that it could be kind of used for as well. I mean, you could have this as some kind of like Bloodthirster, some kind of Demon Prince, or something for AOS. There's plenty of stuff that you could be using this for if you're not into Horus Heresy. Or if, like me, you're just like sort of having some nice, cool models, I think you'd enjoy this one as well. But yeah, there's loads of detail on this. I like the Marines, obviously, on the base, and I think we're starting to see kind of like Chaos Marines are starting to make a bit more of appearance now. So I think we're building up to seeing some more of that stuff. But yeah, so this was released, and it says. Where are we up to here? Whether you're reenacting the devastation of Baal or taking the role of a bloodthirster in your Blades of Khorne army, he's the terror of the tabletop. And it's one thing GW are quite sort of good at is kind of releasing these like Horus Heresy type miniatures and giving them a bit of a second use somewhere else as well. So yeah, if you're into that stuff. Screen's randomly just gone off again. Let's just see if it comes back on. Is there any reason? There it is. No idea why it's doing that. It's staying on my laptop. No idea why it's going off on the other stuff. But we'll crack on. And then there was this, basically, which is the new kind of the next box for Kill Team, if you like, called the Necromunda. A Kill Team Necromunda, which is basically a part of the way they released those new expansions. And here we saw, if we can get to here. We saw basically the Corsairs, which are like sort of like a Eldari or Eldar kind of Elder Corsairs, which are basically being reinvented for the next Kill Team expansion box. And I must admit, this is another model I quite like. I like the kind of the sort of the posing of it, the kind of like the bird kind of flying off, and the balance of the sword coming down to the other side. I quite like this model again. And again, as it says there, Kill Team Necromunda, this will be the next sort of expansion box released. So we're going to see some Eldari Corsairs. It's not been announced what else is going to be in this box. However, there's a very, very strong rumour that it's going to be Chaos Space Marines. One reason that everyone thinks this is because actually this particular page, when it first went up, the description in the web address actually said like CSM versus Corsair, I think it was. And then they've renamed the web page now, so now it says Eldari Corsairs plunder the Necromunda Gauntlet in Kill Team next expansion. They've reworded the web address now, so yeah, I expect to see this box being Chaos Space Marines versus Eldari. So yeah, it looks like we're going to get that. No idea what kind of sort of terrain you'll get in this box, but no doubt we'll start to see that coming very, very soon. Yeah, I think we'll go back to the main screen. We'll see what people are chatting about, because I want to come on to the Necromunda stuff and do a little bit more kind of, not a deep dive, but a bit more chat about it in a second. Christian saying, get your OG BlackJack Legacy t-shirts and hoodies. Thank you very much, Christian, for sharing the link there. If anybody would like to support the channel and kick yourself out in some new merch, that would be awesome. Peter says, I thought Batman's superpower was talking with a very coarse voice. It's funny what being very rich must do to people. Ed says, and now the stuff that had me throwing things at the telly. Yeah. Frantic says, that model will cost a fortune. I'm not sure, mate. It depends on whether it's resin or whether it's plastic. I think sometimes with that kind of stuff, they sometimes make a plastic model. Peter says, isn't there a dead model on the base for scale? Do you know what? I kind of guess there is, but I'd like to see a miniature kind of standing beside it just for visual scale. It's quite hard when you're seeing the kind of like lying flat and stuff like that, that's all. But yeah, technically there is, mate. Lord Main says those wings will be fun to transport. I can't see anybody transporting those models to play, mate. Those are the kind of things that people buy, have every intention of playing them, put them on the shelf, and never see the light of day again. Jason says I might have to start collecting skulls. Jason says he's a big lad. Ed says, in this case, blatantly repackaging a 40k mini as a Horus Heresy mini to keep Horus Heresy fans from murdering them over the much delayed starter set. Yeah, I guess there's all sorts of stuff in the background. Jesse, I remember when all Eldar were Corsair pirates. Yeah, the video actually was for that one is about like what's cooler than a pirate type thing, and then it's got this kind of Venn diagram of pirate ninja kind of thing. It's quite fun actually. It is a fantastic model, but we know about Corsairs before Christmas, so it hardly counts as a reveal. I guess for some folks that are not necessarily keeping up the latest stuff, and it might be new, but it's still a nice model, to be fair. It's in expecting Death World Forest, but I'm hoping for the Kill Team 21 version of Arena. I saw a picture, which was apparently like a leaked picture, and it wasn't like a Death World Forest type stuff. It was more like kind of Eldari buildings, like almost like the spires type things. It was a bit more like that. So we'll see what it is if that was a kind of a genuine picture or not. Marcus says Superman is the only one man. Get me Spider-Man. Oh, there is only one man. Tiberius says I'm looking to do a bit of kill team on my Drukari project to get me ticking over. And hi, by the way, hello mate, hope you're well. Starty's Man Cave says it would be nice to see Eldari terrain. Don't think GW have ever done that. Yeah, it's always been those like weird sort of trees, like Craft World type stuff, isn't it? So yeah, but it'll be nice to see something else, a bit more kind of like building-esque, if you like. James says, evening all, just turn on to see more about Necromunda reveal. We're just about to get onto that one, mate. Never actually played it before, but love the universe and have some of the minis from the 90s. And Peter saying, personally find Kill Team boxes a bit too fast on the release schedule. I'd buy them all if they came a little more spread out. Technically, mate, they're coming out every 3 months, so they're coming out once a quarter. So I guess it depends. Like if you only play a Kill Team, for example, a new box every 3 months, it's probably not too bad in the grand scheme of things. But as we all know, nobody ever really just collects one thing. Peter Stockdale, good evening to you, mate. Marcus is saying he's glad that he's finally making progress on his second painting challenge. Nice one, buddy. And I think with that we'll get back and we'll talk about Necromunda Ash Wastes, which is the thing that actually kind of caught my eye. And the reason it caught my eye is I'm not a huge fan of Necromunda the game itself, for a number of different reasons that I don't really need to go into here. But I do really like. Oh, of course, that screen's just gone off again. I wonder if I've got a bit of a loose connection or something on the HDMI cable. I do really like the setting for Necromunda, so I'm into that kind of sci-fi, that kind of cyberpunk type stuff. I'll tell you what. Let me just sort of move one of these cables and see if this comes back on again. I don't know if it's. I don't know if I've got a loose wire or something like that. Let me just pop that in a second and see if that one there fires it back up again. We'll see if that works. Yeah, so I really do like the setting. I like that kind of sci-fi, the cyberpunk-esque to it. That kind of like sort of like rather than like sort of big sort of hulking space marines, it's the people that live there. Oh, I don't know why the hell that's going off now. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll keep talking anyway. It'll come back at some point. It's the people who live there. It's the people in like kind of like down in the almost like down in the sewers and stuff like that. Not just that kind of like that Imperium man type thing. So I do like that setting. And when I saw this and I watched the trailer for it, it felt like something that could actually get me interested in it. However, so it says life in the Underhive is a constant struggle against starvation, vicious gangs of roving killers, and breathtaking workplace safety violations. But for those who live outside the hive on the irradiated expanse of Necromunda's hellish surface, hang on a second. I'm going to pull the HDMI cable out of my laptop and I'll put it back in again and see just to see if it's kind of like dropping the signal through the capture card. We'll see what happens here. Why do these kind of technical things always play funny buggers? Right, and then what I'll need to do is, if I deactivate that and then activate it again. Does that come back? It just doesn't want to play. Doesn't want to play today. Display settings. Let's have a look. Is that? There you go. That one's come back. We'll go back there again. See how long I last this time. Yeah, but for those who live outside the hive on the irradiated expanse of Necromunda's hellish surface, all that's basically just playing on easy mode. Welcome, scummer, to the Ash Wastes. Of course, it's gone off. I tell you what, let's just go back to the main screen. I'll talk you through it. So basically, what it is saying is, it's actually, if I read this next bit, it's basically saying that it sees intrepid gangs venturing into a far greater danger than the Underhive. Parched sands and pools of poisonous sewage are the least of your troubles out here, as among the dunes live a people hardened to the many perils of the outside world, and they do not share their domain lightly. It says, so great are the distances between hives that even the most athletic gang won't get far on foot, so what vehicles can be scraped together will serve your gang as well in the trials to come. So it's talking about kind of vehicle combat, maybe, something along the lines of a kind of dark future, along the lines of Gorka Morka type thing, a bit like, what was the other thing called with the kind of orc buggies and stuff, Speed Freaks. And I'm assuming you're going to get a lot of kind of like kit bashed kind of trucks and things like that. And I thought, you know what it is, I've not really gotten into any. I like painting sort of vehicles and tanks and like sort of bigger miniatures. I've never really gotten into anything like that. If the rules are pretty good, you know, who knows, I might actually give this one a try. However, there's something here, and let's see if it does pick it up this time. If it does, I'll be able to show you, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. There it is. It says, this major expansion. So here, this major expansion is the biggest news for Necromunda fans in years. This is the bit that kind of has me worried. And the reason that has me worried is because, is it an expansion to Necromunda in terms of, you know, it's another game set in the Necromunda universe, or is it an expansion to the already kind of like the current Necromunda rules? And if it's just an expansion to the rules of current Necromunda, I don't see how that translates to kind of vehicle combat. I don't really understand how the game's going to play, so I'll need to kind of know a bit more about it. But I'm kind of cautiously kind of sort of optimistic about this. I want to find out more about it. Obviously, we will find out more at some point. But yeah, at the minute, it just says that there'll be much more to come from Warhammer community on Necromunda Ash Wastes in the coming months. But for now, head back to kind of to find out more Las Vegas Open reveals. So yeah, what do you think about this this Necromunda game? Do you think it's going to be a standalone thing? Do you think it's going to be something that is just like kind of an expansion to the already existing Necromunda rules? Necromunda is already one of those kind of games that has sort of rules scattered around different things with different expansion books. Their expansions have always been linked to like new houses coming out, but the idea that this is taking it outside of the spire, if you like, and taking it out into the wastes, and we're starting to see vehicles. I'd really like to see it as kind of like a standalone game, as something else. Barry's saying there, sounds like Necromunda Mad Max meets Warcry. That's exactly what I had in my head. I mean, even I put in the title for this video today was Necromunda Goes Mad Max, and that's exactly the thoughts I had. Like, if they made a Warcry variant of like these gangs fighting like kind of over war rigs and stuff like that out in the kind of in the desert wastes, I think I'd be all over it. I think that might be enough to kind of to tease me back into a GW game. But if it's just Necromunda and they've kind of shoehorned vehicles into it somehow, I don't think Necromunda used to have vehicles in it years ago. I don't think it ever did. I could be missing that one, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, shall we say? Let's have a little look and see what folks are saying about it. Sunday Sykes says, damn, stepped through my alarm. Hope I haven't missed all the fun. We're kind of just getting to it now, mate, to be fair. Samir Patel, hello, buddy. Says, feels like we haven't seen you in like 2 weeks. It feels longer to me as well, mate. It's weird. Ed says, yeah, Kill Time's my only GW game, so the schedule works for me. Yeah, I think anything more than kind of once every 3 months, people lose interest. They need something. Whether you buy everything or not is a different matter, but the fact that there's something to talk about, there's something to kind of mix things up a little bit, something new happening, I think is probably not a bad thing. And I actually like the way GW have like set their stall out and say, look, this is what to expect. This is what you're going to see over the next 12 months. You'll see something kind of every quarter. So I don't hate the way they're doing it. I'm not like playing the game to know whether each box is kind of useful or whatever. But I don't think it's too much if that's your main game kind of thing. Jess says shiny and chrome. Samir Patel says Ash Wastes has me hoping for a revamped Gorka Morka. I think there's all sorts of kind of feelings of what it could be. As I've learned over the years, I'm getting very long and old, and long in the tooth and getting old now, and I've seen enough stuff to know that what I'd like to see and what they will produce are very often two different things. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic, but it'll be interesting to see what it actually does be. Yeah, Ian saying, yeah, check your cable connections. To be fair, all it is, I've got the basically I've got a capture card bit there. That's kind of that. I always use it when I'm doing my overhead cameras and stuff. I've got an HDMI cable that basically goes into my laptop on the output, and that's it, and it always tends to work. But it has been kind of like curled up and it's been in the cold for a couple of weeks. It might be a bit of a loose connection, so we might change the HDMI cable for next week. Peter says I wouldn't mind the fast schedule if they would keep them around for say a year or so. I wouldn't say it was fast to start with, but I know what you mean about keeping them around. Like I say, I've not really kept up to speed with the new Kill Team stuff, so I don't really know whether they kind of basically sell out or what their plans are. Jez is saying there, Hive Scum are more interesting than Marines. I think so too, mate. I think sometimes that you can build more character out of, because something you don't really see in 40k are the people that just like live in the world. You don't really see it in AOS either, and it was one of the things in Warcry that really attracted me, was the fact that you had these kind of like gangs who like live out in the wastes between the major cities, if you like, kind of almost like sort of like rebel kind of gangs, like sort of like outside of like normal kind of like sort of civilization, if you like. And I kind of see Necromunda as that similar thing, you with the Juvies and the Goliaths and all the different kind of gangs and the different people within the gangs. There's real characters in it, and I would like to see the Necromunda universe explored a bit more outside of Necromunda as a game, because Necromunda as a game is just a bit more complex than I particularly like. I understand lots of people like it, and there's some really kind of strong feelings about it, but I think it's not what I personally want, that's all. But I would like to see that Necromunda universe expanded and explored a bit more. Tiberius says, I do wish there was residential and civilian Imperium in 40k. There's all these trillions of people living in the Imperium and all the buildings and military industrial complex. Yeah, that's exactly kind of like exactly what I was saying, mate. I completely agree. Peter says, if it comes to an all in, where was that one? If it comes all into one book, I could be interested. This is what I mean about, is it going to be a bit of a standalone kind of game on its own thing, or is it going to just be like an extra expansion book that you still need? This is the bit I don't really understand. I don't know how you would use existing Necromunda rules to move over into kind of like vehicle combat, unless you're basically kind of, if the vehicles almost become like bits of terrain just to kind of hide behind, that would be a bit of a shame. John, hello John, how you doing, buddy? Lord Man Ian there, he's saying it could be a mix of Gaslands and Necromunda. Could be cool. I'm not sure it's going to be play on a big enough. This is the other side of it. I'm not sure it's going to play on a big enough sort of mat, if you like. Like Necromunda's technically always been a little bit smaller, that you're going to be like racing these things around. And this is the bit that I kind of would be interested to find out more about it. John says Necromunda's a great set of rules and it's great setting, but there are just so many books. It really should be seen as an RPG where you just need the bits you want for your story. And I don't disagree with you, mate. I think it's actually just there's so much of it that anybody trying to get in on the ground floor who's never not like kind of like an old school Necromunda player almost doesn't even know what they need or where to start. Peter says, I've got some second edition Orc buggies and trucks to repurpose. Corax Cox, hello, says, might be a prototype of Gorka Morka. It could be technically, but then I guess that's what they did with kind of Speed Freaks before, didn't it? James says maybe it's standalone rule set that you can link into Necromunda campaigns. Something like that would kind of potentially interest me, mate. The fact if you could play it standalone, like, and ignore the Necromunda stuff if you like, that you didn't have to do that stuff. It's just the way it says it's an expansion, which makes me feel it's going to be tied into like Necromunda somehow. Christian sharing the link there as well for the BlackJack Legacy merch. Thank you very much, matey. Peter says, in all honesty, I still have old Necromunda and would gladly play that. Yeah, I guess it comes down to what your local folks play, doesn't it? Rathammer Games says, if you can make progression improvements to the vehicles, I'm in. The only way that makes sense though is if you can do anything with the vehicles. Like if the board's not big enough for them to move around, do they end up just being like kind of like this abstract like shooting from vehicle to vehicle type thing? I'm no doubt we'll find out. John says, I've been heard before, but it does look interesting. Yeah, that's exactly my point, mate, really. I'm kind of, like I said, cautiously optimistic. Ian says, old in the tooth. Yeah, long in the tooth, mate. He says, that's why the term salt and pepper is needed. Ed says, my bet for Ash Wastes is a big box, but not quite a standalone game. It'll probably be pretty self-contained. And Starty saying, dark future with Necromunda branding. Quite possibly, but like, can we see it? Like, is it going to be built like part of the attraction would be big vehicles, wouldn't it? That like are scaled for 28mm. But then it won't really work on a tabletop. So does it end up being some version of, for example, Aeronautica Imperialis with vehicles instead of kind of flyers? Who knows where it's going to be? Samir Patel says, oh dang, it just dawned on me, Andy's come to the Super Bowl. Let's do it, Rams. Fingers crossed, mate. I think we're our best chance against Cincinnati, to be fair. Barry says, Necromunda has always been about building characters and playing them forward, which is something I've always enjoyed. Yeah, like I say, I really love the kind of like the theming of it. It's just the game itself is a bit more complex than I would generally play. I don't really kind of commit that much time to kind of like a campaign type stuff. I much prefer kind of like one-off game stuff. It's why Warcry was right up my street. Sunday says, I'm getting a Nomads vibe from Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah. Peter says, just check the GW site, and Octorius and Calneth boxes are already gone, so they don't stick around. I guess it depends where you buy from. I know like a lot of like local stores will still carry stuff. If they bring it back like a starter like Octorius, that might be a good compromise. Ed's saying they'll probably make it like a rolling board rather than a static one. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. If they make it a rolling board. But then it still has to be something like, that's why I don't think it's going to be like Gaslands unless the scale is kind of scaled down. And Starty saying, I hope it ain't normal miniatures fighting over moving terrain vehicle type board like a train or something. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that I wouldn't necessarily want it to be. It's nice to kind of spitball ideas, and it's nice to kind of like wish list about what we want. But I guess until we get a bit more information, it's going to be a tough one. And Rob's saying, I'd be very interested if it was a standalone game, but going to wait and say, yeah, absolutely, mate. This is not something that you need to kind of get too excited about. I think it's going to be something that'll always sort of be on the back burner a bit, and we can keep an eye on and see what it is. So, folks, let's hope that this connection holds out on the old laptop there. So here. This is the other thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, this is a game called The Dark Quarter, and this is more of a I'll tell you what. Let me take this HDMI cable out. I know it's come back on again, but I'm just gonna straighten it out because it's been, as you can see, it's kind of curled a little bit, and I'm wondering if maybe it's kind of got a bit of a dodgy connection in it, where it's out. So we'll try just straighten it out a second and pop it back in, because I want to be able to show some pictures for this one. Let's see if that wakes itself back up again. So bear with me, folks. Sometimes it happens. There we go. That's come back now. So we go back here. Fingers crossed there. So The Dark Quarter. It's not out yet, but this is a game that is being designed. It's a kind of collaboration between two games. Fuck. It's a collaboration between two games companies called Lucky Duck Games. Lucky Duck Games you might have heard of, who did the game Chronicles of Crime, which is kind of like a game that uses an app to be able to scan kind of QR codes so you can investigate kind of like murders and things like that. Really, really fun game. Plays really, really well. The app is really slick on it. And the other company is Van Ryder Games. And you might know Van Ryder Games. They do quite a lot of kind of like solo type games, like Hostage Negotiator is one that they make, which I've got and I quite like playing it. And they've also made something recently called Final Girl. So if you're into that kind of sort of horror genre type stuff, it's almost like a solo game where you are playing like the final girl in some kind of like horror film type thing, trying to escape from the killer. And by all means, by all accounts, that's getting some really good reviews as well. There's currently a Final Girl 2 on Kickstarter at the moment. So Van Ryder Games and Lucky Duck Games are a couple of companies that I actually quite like the stuff that they do. And this is called The Dark Quarter. If anybody's familiar with Lucky Duck Games, they basically made a game recently called Destiny or Destinies, and it was an expansion on what they did with Chronicles of Crime, where you were basically it's a bit like an RPG type story where you have like missions to do, you're trying to explore around and do things, but it worked with that kind of scanning the Chronicles of Crime sort of QR code things to ask people questions, investigate stuff, and it also had like a bit of a dice mechanic as well. The way the game played was pretty sort of straightforward, really quite sort of like light rules, but was really sort of character driven RPG storytelling type thing. But you played it between 1 and 3 people, and it was kind of competitive where you're all playing the story together, you're all exploring, you're all finding out information, but you all have a slightly different kind of objective that you're trying to achieve. Now this game, this Dark Quarter, is going to use that kind of Destiny's mechanic, if you like. However, it's going to be a cooperative game. So again, I think you can play 1 to 4 players, the talk is, and you're basically sort of playing some kind of paranormal detective type thing in 1980s New Orleans. Now let's see if we can get this to work long enough just to kind of show you some pictures so you can see the kind of theme that they're going for. Now there's a Facebook page that's up for it at the moment, and this is where some of the artwork is, and basically you can, if I go here, you can see some of the stuff. So there's plenty of stuff here which give you a little bit of background about the different characters that you can play. This one being John Robichaud, who's like basically in fact, let me read a little bit about, I think it's this kind of sets the scene a little bit. It was the hottest summer on record in New Orleans. Humidity coated the city like a mass of rancid honey. Jazz riffs leaked out of the French Quarter, valiantly trying to pierce the sweltering air, and the people stumbled from street to street and parish to parish as if in a sweat-drenched trance. If ever the city lived with its ancient nickname, the Wet Grave, it was the summer of 81. So it kind of like sets a bit of a scene for you for kind of like where the game's set. And then you basically have these 4 characters who are essentially working for this sort of a bit like a paranormal kind of detective agency who basically get called in when the New Orleans police kind of find stuff that they just basically can't get their heads around a little bit. The characters look really good. So you've got like Constance Moreau here, who is essentially kind of it says basically, Constance Moreau, forced to grow up overnight when her mother was killed in a car accident. She became hard as steel with a will to survive that was frequently terrifying. She discovered magic as well as a talent for it. By 12, she had the abilities of a voodooine, thrice her age. At 15, she summoned her first Iowa. And at 18, she was regarded, sorry folks, she was regarded as one of the most powerful magicians in all of Dark Orleans. So basically, you've got one who's a bit of like a voodoo sort of priestess type thing. You've got one guy who can sort of talk to the dead, but he can only he only gets the abilities when he's drunk, so he's kind of drunk most of the time. You've got a one who's a bit of like a kind of sort of an ex-cop type thing, and one that has has been a vampire, but has managed to kind of conquer the thirst, if you like. And it looks to be a really, really good game. It's got a mature rating to it, like 16 and over, and it looks like it's going to come to Kickstarter in March. And folks have kind of been asking a few questions about it. It's saying that it'll have a similar exploration, dice and skill system with an RPG-like and story-driven experience compared to Destiny's, the previous game. But there's going to be a number of changes and a much stronger focus on characters and world building. So, it's something worth checking out. It's something that I like that kind of sort of New Orleans 1980s mystic stuff with kind of werewolves and vampires and voodoo stuff in the background. It's right up my street kind of thing. I like what Lucky Duck Games are doing with their kind of app-driven tabletop games. I like the fact it's solo. I like the fact it's competitive. I like the fact it's kind of story-driven. I like that Van Ryder Games are involved, and I like the way they do their solo stuff. So it's something I'm just going to keep an eye on. It's not something I think is going to be kind of massively expensive. It's going to be a lot of cardboard, but you do get miniatures with it as well, which will obviously be the characters as you move them around the board, which basically opens up as you play the game, a bit like in Destiny's. You do get some sort of plastic characters as well. So yeah, one to watch out for, right up my street. Exactly the kind of thing that I kind of from a theme that I'm interested in. So yeah, it might be something to put on your watch list for now and see what it means. Let's have a little look. Let me go back a bit. Here we are. Yeah, Greg Cherry, hello mate. He's saying see the Sentinels in the new MZ add-on. MZ. Don't know what MZ is. Peter Cummins says love the old Gorkamorka trucks. I don't even know anything about Gorkamorka. I never played that. It was in the era when I wasn't playing games. Tizzy Brain Drain says maybe your laptop is a 49ers fan. Do you know what it is? It works every week. It's never been a problem. I've probably just got a dodgy cable or something like that. That's all it'll be. Frank saying because you skipped last week's live, it might be, mate. It needs warmed up. VG is saying you should be doing this stuff over NDI so you don't need to use HDMI cables. No, I don't, honestly, mate. I don't need to complicate stuff. It's literally I've got a capture card which takes an HDMI input. All my cameras work off HDMI inputs. It works absolutely fine, mate. It'll just be a dodgy connection on a cable. That's all. It's worked perfect every other week I've done it, so it'll just be a cable. Marcus is saying if it was not for bad luck, you'd have no luck. Ian's saying replace the cable. I love everybody's giving me advice to try and fix it live on a stream. What I'll do is I'll just wander off and go looking for HDMI cables while I'm live on stream. Yeah, VG says Van Ryder does Final Girl, which is awesome. Yes, mate, I mentioned that. Yeah. Tizzy Brintrin says naturally I'm really interested in this game. And VJ says it's a very similar system to Hostage Negotiator. Yeah, I think Final Girl's kind of based on Hostage Negotiator, but this definitely feels like it's based more on Destiny's by Lucky Duck Games. But I think that there's some of what they've learned from kind of like from Final Girl and stuff like that, and from their games that they're bringing into it. Busey said, "Is it a PC game?" No, it's a tabletop game, mate. But it does work with an app. So if you're familiar with Chronicles of Crime or Destinies, essentially what you're doing is you're playing out a story and you're using the app on your phone, or you can play it with an app on a laptop or whatever. And you're with anything with a camera, basically, like with an iPad or whatever. And you're basically scanning a QR code. So you're telling this app basically, I want to talk to the policeman about this character. So you can like sort of click on the policeman, scan the character's QR code, and the game knows that you're telling the policeman to talk to that particular character, and it works really, really well. It's pretty slick, and I like how they've integrated it. I know a lot of people don't like kind of sort of screens and apps with their games. This is the kind of game that would potentially make you change your mind. I like the way they integrate them. Jez is saying I like hearing about other types of games like this. Yeah, there's some games that I just think they're just a little bit different. They're just a bit more interesting. It's not your sort of normal average board game with kind of counters and dice type thing. You know, the addition of the app, the addition of miniatures into it, the fact that it's almost like an RPG storytelling type thing. There's a bit of kind of I like that kind of horror-esque kind of dark 80s kind of New Orleans feel to it. VG says, anyone else notice the 3D printer layer lines really pop out on the Armada resin chips when you dry brush? I must admit, I've painted loads and I've never noticed it. I've never noticed it on them, whether it's different ships or whether it's kind of newer ones or whatever. Most of mine are kind of from the first print runs, I'd imagine, but I've never noticed it before. Major Tom says, it does sound interesting, but I usually play actual RPGs for that sort of experience. I think the beauty of it is, mate, is that if you're playing it solo, or you're only playing it with like you and one other person, RPGs can sometimes kind of fall down when there's only one or two people, rather than a big party of people. This is designed to be like kind of like less people playing the game, and that's what I like about it. Like I'm rarely going to get around a table to do some kind of like RPG where I'll sit and play cooperatively with my wife, for example, on something like this. Ice Moon says, does look interesting. We'll check out the campaign when it comes out. Yeah, you can if you go to Facebook and you check out the Dark Quarter, you can join their Facebook group where they're starting to post some pictures, some images of minis and things like that. Gives you an idea. Ian says, yeah, go, we can wait 30 minutes. 30 minutes to find a cable, yeah. Vijay says, yes, sorry, I meant Final Girls based on Hostage Negotiator. Yes, mate, yeah. Beauty saying, I think you have a spare cable second shelf down. I don't have any spare cables in here, mate. All the cables are in a box in the loft in the house. I don't use HDMI cables very often these days, because whenever if I buy something new, they tend to come with an HDMI cable. John says, good evening. I haven't been following GW releases too closely as of late. I need to focus on what I already have. Too bad there's only so much time in a day. Yeah, whatever it takes, mate. Vijay says the orc sales on a couple of them are pretty obvious. I wonder what it's been then, mate, because I can't say that I've noticed it on the orc ones I've got, but maybe they're from separate runs or from separate casts or something like that. John says, if you try licking the cable, that's always a good sign, isn't it? A little bit of wet and electricity always goes down well. Yeah, it could be anything. It might be the signal from my laptop, and I might just need a restart. It's probably had some kind of update or something. Aaron says, random MCP question. Do you think them including extra terrain with the characters to be a bonus or a burden? I'm painting up the Dormammu terrain and it's just a chore. It depends, mate. I mean, the difference with Dormammu is it's part of like his like ultimate encounter and stuff like that, where you're moving those kind of portals around. So you can choose to paint them. I'm trying to remember if you use them, if you actually play them in a normal game. I can't remember, if I'm honest. People like Magneto has his bits of terrain as well. I quite like them. I think it kind of adds to it. If it's like being displayed on the shelf, it kind of adds to that display thing. But I guess it's horses for courses, mate. For you saying I'll post some pics on the Discord. Yeah, I must admit, the more I've read about this game, I've seen Destiny's played before, and it was something I was quite interested in. But because I've gone back and sort of done a bit more research on the Destiny's game to understand what it's based upon, like for this one, I'm quite tempted to pick Destiny's up, to be honest. I think it's only about 35 quid. There's a core set, there's some expansions if you kind of got into it a bit more. You can play it solo, you can play it kind of two-player competitively, as in like you have different missions, you're not exactly helping each other out. I like the fact that this one is cooperative, and I'd probably get it to the table a bit more often, I think, doing it that way. Vijay says he played Outer Rim at the weekend. It's a great game. Looking forward to playing against the custom AI for each of the characters that someone did online. There's quite a few people. There's quite a few games where people do that, kind of make like sort of like AI for that type of stuff. It's good that. Kelly Caudle says, MCP question, do I have a problem because I've bought every character pack and feel I must buy them all? I've bought them all as well, Kelly. So there's some new ones due out in February, which are the X-Men ones that I obviously haven't got yet. But yeah, I must admit I've got everything up to that point. Marcus says, just like having to give your old N64 the harmonica treatment. I remember those days. Arnold Degans says, my spot. Thank you very much, Arnold. Haven't seen you in a little while. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if did I miss that? Ortega pledging on the Patreon there. I thought Ortega was already on the Patreon. And Kelly's saying the Quinjet looks amazing. Yeah, it is just a big terrain piece for the middle of the board type thing. And the only thing I would say, there it is. The only thing I would say is, I'd quite like to see some stuff that's not just like kind of like cityscape. I'd like to see some stuff that's like out in the desert or like on another planet type stuff. There's a lot of city type stuff. We Roll Dice says, go Bengals. We'll be there. We'll see you next a couple of weeks, buddy. James says, glad you did that, Arnold. Couldn't remember why on earth I super chatted £2.03. Do you know what it is, mate? I think it's because it's in. It gets converted to dollars. So if the exchange rate has changed since you did £2 like 2 weeks ago, it'll have exchanged into dollars and exchanged back again, and it ends up being funny numbers. Happens all the time, mate. John says, I've noticed mould lines on the Catalyst Battletech models. That's initially apparent. I've not seen any Battletech models. And Arnold says, all in on Necromunda nowadays. Yeah, I think that plenty of people are, mate, to be fair. I think Necromunda's got its kind of loyal followers, I think. Kelly says, I would like to recreate a helicarrier battlefield Quinjets and crates. Yeah, that would look pretty cool. I just want to see something that's kind of a bit different from just like the New York streets, I think, for a change. So I guess we're kind of coming up to probably the last kind of 20 minutes or so for tonight's stream. I am flagging a bit tonight as I stayed up to watch the NFL last night, so yeah, I am a bit more tired than normal. But I think by the end of the stream, as I mentioned at the start, I was talking about kind of my kind of like creative sort of creative block that I've kind of got at the minute. And like I say, it's happened about sort of 2 or 3 times over the last 5 years. So it happens sometimes when there's nothing that's really kind of like sort of grabbing my attention, and you go through those kind of sort of creative blockages, if you like. So what kind of stuff would you like to see? What games are you enjoying? What are you looking forward to seeing? What board games are you playing? What RPGs are you playing? What models are you painting? Let me know what kind of stuff's kind of like firing you up, what's got your creative juices going at the moment, and let's see if it kind of sparks something off for me as well. Ed says there's an alien spaceport set for MCP. There is, but I'll be honest, mate, it's the worst set that they make. It's not something I want to pick up. It's especially on that horrible blue mat as well. It's like trying to play a game on some kind of like psychedelic drug. I don't really like that one. John said he's got a working PS4 again, but ain't got any games. I'm much more interested in something else. Marcus is saying the last 20 minutes time to mention bacon. I've been off the bacon, mate. I've been really healthy. I'm doing well with my weight loss at the minute. My exercise is doing well. Done loads of walking over the weekend, a bit of swimming and stuff like that as well. So I've been racking up the miles, doing about 7 miles a day, like kind of wandering around and stuff. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty healthy at the minute. Derek says I've gone completely daft on Warcry. Aaron says that mat for that spaceport is insane. It's like being on drugs. It's so purple and blue. Yeah, I don't like it at all. He says it's always in stock though. It is the only one that is in stock. You can't buy any of the kind of the city street ones. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that blue mat. Not only is it really difficult to play on and stuff, but if you're going to put it on camera, you almost lose where the models are on it. It's very, very difficult to see. But I still need to finish off my Subway stuff anyway. John says, Ed says that sounds like every game of anything I played in the early 90s. John says Gaslands is the game I get to play the most these days, but might get some Battletech in this upcoming week. You don't hear of Gaslands so much. I must admit, I know people still play it, but I hardly ever really hear of it too much these days. Jacob says, I just read the WHO has classified bacon as unhealthy as tobacco. Nothing wrong with tobacco, really, mate, in moderation either, to be fair. Mark Hornoff says, 1-page rules and TT Combat are getting all my hobby and gaming time at the moment. Hello, Mark, by the way. TT Combat, mate, what are you doing from TT Combat that's getting your hobby time? Do you mean the terrain, or do you mean any of the games that they play? Jess says he's kit bashing a Stargrave crew at the moment. He's been loving making the terrain. Still on his Rangers of Shadow Deep, and he's got the Marine side of Aliens to paint as well. Peter says that's like the old X-Wing Death Star map. Gave you headaches. Yeah. I know exactly which one you mean, mate. Aaron says, I have the version 1 book for Gaslands. Worth grabbing the new version. I've got the version 1 as well, mate. I've not played like an awful lot of it, but I never did buy the second one either. Robson, he's really pumped for Liar Chronicles. Should have by the end of March. I do have that coming as well, mate, to be fair. So once that comes along, we might do some kind of playthroughs of that or something like that, because I do like the Liar Chronicles. James is relatively new to tabletop games, but he's enjoying 5 parsecs from home at the moment. Got the new Core Space Firstborn to start painting as well. That's a nice purchase, mate, the Core Space stuff. Christian saying, if you're shopping at Amazon, don't forget the affiliate link. It really does help me out, folks. If you are shopping at Amazon and you click through my affiliate link, it doesn't cost you any more money. I make a small commission for you kind of clicking through my link. It's a great way to kind of support the channel without costing you any money. So if you are shopping at Amazon on any kind of frequency, save my affiliate link as a kind of like as a bookmark and click through that. You wouldn't believe how much it helps. Robson is also doing Star Wars Legion, and John said he finished custom build for one of his buddies last week, and he was so pleased he paid me a bonus that amounted to double the price we'd agreed on. Nice one, buddy. Mark saying Rumble Slam and Carnival. Yeah, nice, mate. I do have some Carnival stuff that I need to get to. I must admit, I've intentionally not done anything with it yet because I wanted to do a video about like sort of about the starter box, so I didn't want to get like halfway through it and then like not do the video kind of thing. So I do need to pick that up. That might be something I do this week, actually. Aaron's saying right now he's printing up some proxy party design for Dust 47 to assemble an Axis Otto. It was a rare model I never got a hold of. I'll be throwing it up on the Cult 3D later under Maximum DT. I've never played Dust 47, and I must admit I've not been really 3D printing anything in a while. I'll have to get back into that at some point. John said, this month I've mostly been painting things on big bases. I'm kind of halfway through my Dormammu model at the minute, and hopefully in a combination of putting some time aside this week and having to isolate, I might be able to get it finished this week. So that might be the way to do it. Aaron says he's slugging through painting balls with cracks. That Dormammu stuff. Yeah, when I paint Dormammu this week for the painting challenge, I don't think I'll be painting the terrain pieces as part of the challenge. I think I'll add them in the future. I will paint the nice big base that he's on, but I don't think I'll paint the cracked ball stuff. Tasty Brain Drain says he's working on his Death Troopers for Star Wars Legion. He's practically done with those, and his board game group's been playing a lot of Seafall. I've heard of Seafall, mate. I've not played it. I don't know a lot about it, but yeah, I am. I don't know, it's not that old again. Is it like maybe a year or two old, something like that. John says he loved those mechs from Dust. Managed to get 2 with optional parts for both. Peter says that's right. I still have to send my entry. Where do we send it again? Any entries for the January BlackJack Legacy Painting Challenge, send them by email to blackjacklegacy@gmail.com and I'll get those and I'll add them all into the folder so I can show them all off on the live stream next week. Sunday I've been playing through Curse City with some friends lately, along with my usual Blood Bowl stuff, and I've also been painting the Red Gobbo and Frog Giant for D&D. And Marcus said he's just working on the AdMech 40k commission for the painting challenge. Need to get back to finishing his Warcry stuff. Flip Movie Maker, good evening to you. He says he's working on 10mm dwarves and goblins for fantastic battles. Just ordered a bunch of models and doing ancient naval battles from Poseidon's warriors. How much is a duck worth? Says Freudian slip. Quite possibly, mate. James says C4 definitely older than that. I might be thinking of a newer version or something like that, or a reprint. He says friends that I was halfway through before my son was born. It must be a different one I'm thinking of then, mate. Peter says thanks, I'll send it later. Cheers, buddy. Tony Boovleiden, good evening, fella. How are you doing? He says he's almost finished painting 500 points of Cruel Boys inside a week. That's good going, buddy. And he says C4 came out in 2016. Yeah, maybe it is the same one I'm thinking of. I guess I'm just thinking of like, I think lockdown in 2020 and 2021 kind of just disappeared. So maybe 2016 doesn't feel that long ago. So, folks, I think that is as good a time as any to kind of wrap this up so I can go and get some sleep, because I am shattered, and the bed that I've been sleeping in for the last few nights while I've been away for the weekend was like sleeping on a brick. So I'm looking forward to getting into my own bed tonight and having a good old sleep. So, folks, should have another video coming up this week. If you haven't checked out last week's video, which was the getting into Malifaux, the best way to get into Malifaux, please do check that out. It really does help me out if you watch those videos. Give it a thumbs up, leave a comment comment, that type of stuff. It helps everything out. Everyone's saying have a good night and a great week. Yes, I do. I've got my hospital appointment on Saturday morning, so I'm having a small kind of procedure. So yeah, so I'm obviously shitting myself about that. But yeah, I'll be back on Monday, and we'll have another live stream. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about as well. And I will see you all next week, or I'll see you in the Patreon chat this week. So take care, folks. See you then.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.